Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look in this training module at understanding our exhaust temperature protection built into our Gen 3 Coyote applications. This is going to be including our COT or catalyst over temp protection, exhaust flange temp protection, and oxygen sensor temperature protection. Everything here is based around EGTs or exhaust gas temperature. If our EGTs get too hot, it can damage any of the components in our exhaust system. So Ford has implemented a fail-safe protection feature that it's going to be injecting more fuel to cool down our exhaust components if the EGTs or exhaust gas temperatures get too hot. Now, the EGTs are going to be inferred or calculated. There's actually no EGT probe in the exhaust to take a direct measurement. So we're going to be dealing with a table that's used in the EGT calculations to be able to figure out what your exhaust gas temperature is going to be, or the catalyst temperature, which drives a whole bunch of things within the calibration file here. So we're going to take a look at some data log examples. I'll talk about a couple of the key tables here that we need to pay attention to. If you have OEM components in the exhaust system, so you have OEM headers, you have OEM catalysts, you have obviously your factory oxygen sensors. You want to keep all this in place. But if you change to long tube headers and high flow cats, we want to go in and turn some things off and may want to go tweak and adjust a few things. So we're going to break that down, what to do, the changes you should do if you have long tube headers and high flow cats installed. We're going to have another tutorial talking about changes and updates you should make when you have catless exhaust on your vehicle. So there's some key things that we need to keep in mind that we need to turn off, and some tables that we need to change. And I'll walk you through all that in another training module. This is just going to be focusing on how the protection feature fail-safes work here, and then implementing some changes for long tube headers as well as high flow cats. Okay, let's jump in and let's open up a stock calibration file to start off our tutorial to locate a couple of these tables and the protection features that we have built into our file. First thing we're going to do is go up into File and into Open, and then we're going to move in here to our HPT Gen 3 Coyote folder, and then we're going to move into our sample calibration file subfolder. Any stock file here will work. I'm going to go ahead and, in this case, open up a 2020 Mustang GT Auto stock. That's fine to take a look at here. You could open up your stock equivalent file as well. What we're going to do is move into our engine tab, and we're going to go from General over here into our Fuel, and then we're going to move into our tab here labeled Temperature Control. Now, HP Tuners has paired all of the temperature protection features into this singular page. Let's look at this real quick. So what we find is we have our exhaust manifold protection, we have our catalyst protection, or also known as COT, and we also have oxygen sensor protection. Now, there are some other protection features such as exhaust valve protection as well. We'll find that if we go and exceed any of our enable thresholds here, so for example, flange over temp protection enabled 1580 degrees, in this case Fahrenheit EGTs, and that's going to be that inferred or calculated value we'll look at here in some data logs. We find our catalyst over temp protection here. That's going to be, there's a stage 1 and stage 2, but in this case, they're both set the same, 1650 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer in our catalyst temperature. We'll kick into our COT protection, and then we also have our oxygen sensor protection here kicking in at 1700. Now, they all have thresholds to disable or to exit out of the fail-safe strategy, and we can see to disable and come out of it, you'll find that right here there's a disable, has to drop below 1550 degrees. Right here for the COT disable, it's going to be showing here 1630 degrees, I'm sorry. And then the oxygen sensor disable and the OT valve, or the valve OT disable here, we can see the thresholds to turn it off. So it has to drop below that in the EGT measurement or the catalyst temperature measurement in order to turn off the fail-safe components. Now, a lot of people, when they go and they start tuning the Gen 3 Coyotes, and I used to be guilty of this, I used to turn this off, especially if I wanted to make sure it made the most power on a dyno. Because what happens in this strategy is if we exceed any of our thresholds here, so any of our enabled thresholds, it's going to kick into the strategy. And it's going to go in here, and if we take a look, it's going to have a max enrichment and a base enrichment. So we see that it can go and enrich the target lambda down to as low as 0.7, but it's going to start off in its exhaust component control and drop it down to 0.97 from Stoich. So it's going to be the beginning point where it immediately drops, let's say from 1.0 lambda Stoich down to 0.97, the beginning of the control. Then it can go all the way down to the bottom of 0.7 lambda. Now this is going to override whatever the command at lambda is, idle, part throttle, wide open throttle. So even if we're in power enrichment mode, and let's say we're commanding something like 82, 86 lambda at full throttle, trying to get some good power out of the engine, if the EGTs pick up too hot, let's say, and it goes into our COT or catalyst over temp protection, it's going to start off at whatever the PE value is going to be commanded at, and it can work its way down under full throttle as low as 0.7. Now, obviously, that's going to absolutely kill power running our engine that rich. However, we're trading off that power output out of our engine to keep the cats in place and not have them melt. This is critically important, and I cannot state this enough. This is critically important when you're talking about a forced induction Coyote engine. Specifically, we're talking about superchargers because they're the most common bolt-on mod that's done to Mustangs in general, and especially the Gen 3s. Whether you're talking about a Roush, whether you're talking about a Whipple kit, an ESS, a Paxton, a Vortec, whatever supercharger kit you're installing, you're going to find you run the risk, especially with aftermarket or OEM cats in place, turning off any of this temperature protection, especially the COT protection. You will kill the catalytic converters. You're going to melt the substrate off the cat, which is going to essentially render them useless. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.